Hello everybody, I'm back. I should just say that my last video was not actually serious, that it was a joke. It was, which just in case some of you thought, because I can be a little bit hardcore, but it was, a bit of a joke about a colleague on my forum that I frequent, one of a few. And I should say Mr. Moo is a terribly nice chap, actually, and you may see him on several forums, and he is a fairly well-experienced coffee fan, a cigar fan, and a pipe fan, and he's terribly generous in giving advice to the whole community, and he's very witty, sharp, intelligent, literal, and he's a really top guy. So it was a joke, and yes, you are looking at the mayor. So I was kind of, it was a last minute thing, and it was quite funny because I just did this video and everybody said, hey, let's all vote for Dub, and he was about to win, and it was all good fun. And this brings us back to a serious point. I've said it before, I'll say it again. There is an awful lot of seriousness about pipe smoking. There is an awful lot of worrying about, do I have the right pipe? Is it made well? Am I packing the pipe right? And ooh, will I ruin my pipe if I smoke it more than twice a day? And ooh, did I damage it because I didn't ream it properly? And ooh, should I do the salt treatment? And ooh, and it's so just relax a little. It's all about relaxing. It's all about not having a cigarette if you're an ex-cigarette smoker, or it's all about sort of enjoying smoking as opposed to just kind of getting some nicotine in you. So don't worry about all the stuff that you can worry about. Have a little laugh, relax. So I'm going to talk to you on this video about wet smokes. Now I forget the individual who requested this video, so good luck to him. I'll put it in the edits. But yeah, somebody asked me about what causes a wet smoke, and why are smokes wet. Now there are a few theories on this. My bog standard theory, my number one theory is, I'm convinced on this, is an obstructed airway. If the pipe does not have a free, easy flow all the way through, which generally means about 4 millimeters. That's 4 millimeters. That's actually 3.5. It's probably it's about 3.5 millimeters. I don't know what you call that in American fraction inches, but it should have a wide, unobstructed passage. And for me, I find, regardless of puffing technique, smoking technique, and regardless of how wet the tobacco is, the pipes that I find gurgle, no matter what I do, is a narrow passageway. Now I find that problem is usually in the stem. It's usually about here, and I find it's more frequent on bent pipes. I think it's because they drill out the pipe and the stem, and then they bend the stem, and when they bend the stem, it closes off, it thins out. Now what happens is, the hot air with moisture and tobacco or smoke in it is going through here, and if it hits any obstruction along the way, that causes turbulence, and that increases the condensation that's created in the chamber. I find equally bent pipes like this do tend to gurgle a bit more. Now this is a non-filter Peterson's, and I do find that it does tend to gurgle quite a bit. Now I have a bent pipe that has a filter, and that's okay, because then the filter absorbs so much moisture, it doesn't really get gurgly, and that's one of the advantages of smoking filter pipes. Now this is a bent pipe, and it's a very nice big bend, and it has a filter in here, so it doesn't really gurgle because of the filter absorbing so much. Now let's come back to this straight and bent thing. There's one theory I've heard that says if the pipe is bent, that, you know, when you're smoking on it, less moisture is going to go down into, you're going to blow less of your steamy moisture, your breath, into the bowl. So that's one theory. So one theory is that actually straight pipes, this is fairly straight, is actually causes more condensation. Now I don't go with that. I find you know, pipes tend to gurgle a bit if they're bent, and if there's an obstruction in the airway. Now I talked about, it's not really obstruction, a narrowing, any sort of thinning, basically a free, there's not a free generous draw of air through the pipe. Now these I'm just going to talk about this a little bit more. Okay, so the other, say if it is an open airway and the airway is very good, you can also get your pipes opened up, so you can send them back to a pipe repairer and he will open it up for you. And if it's a bent pipe like this, he'll unbend it by heating this, and he'll unbend it and he'll drill it through again and he'll bend it back again. So that'll cost you about 20-30 euros, $20-30. But they say it's highly recommended to opening up your pipes, and he'll check that it's open here as well. You know, he'll check this as well. Now they say that the join here is very important, that if there's a gap between this bit and on the inside, so between the mortise and the kind of shank, so I forget my terminology offhand, but basically if there's a gap, see there's no gap, there's a gap. Okay, so if there's a gap, see, that's the gap there, and if there's no gap, is preferable. If there is a gap, again, more turbulence will be created when the hot air is going through that section of the pipe, creating moisture. So they say that's one of the reasons. Now again, that kind of, I think that's an overrated thing. For example, I had my stem repaired by Paolo Becker, and he's a gent, and I spoke to him and I sent him quite a bit of money, and he sent me a lot of money back. He said, well, you sent me too much, so I'll fix it for you. And he actually said, well, you know, it was very narrow, the drill in here, and he's one of the world's greatest pipe makers, there's no doubt about that. But, you know, he said, well, actually I was using some pre-drilled stock stems at the time this pipe was made, even though I bought it new unsmoked. He did actually make it quite a long time ago. He said, I was using old stock then, and I'm really sorry about that. So there you go. This can happen from serious high quality pipe makers. And again, this comes to my other point, is about this cavity. Now, when I talked about this gap between the stem and the shank, you know, between the tenon and the mortise, I think that's the correct, but at the end of the tenon and, you know, the drill hole, that little gap there. Now that goes out the window with something like a Peterson Silver Spigot. You'll tend to find that Peterson Silver Spigot have a very, and I don't know why, they have a very big open chamber in here. So in theory there would be lots of turbulence in there, and that would cause increased amount of moisture. And it does. This one actually does kind of gurgle a little bit, but I assume Petersons, after making pipes for 150 odd years, kind of know what they're talking about, and I assume they've thought about this, and I presume they've concluded something. So this has a big open chamber with lots of turbulence happening in there, and I suspect it actually in here, and I suspect it actually cools the pipe to a certain extent. So there you go. You know. Lots of theories, but for me, I do find two of my gurgliest pipes are two of my Spanu. This is my lovely Spanu Olive Wood, and this is my lovely Spanu FR, a beautiful green rusticated. I've shown this before, Thomas Spanu, Italian. Really nice pipes, I really love them, but they do tend to gurgle. Now, as the cake is built up, and as I use more drier tobaccos in them, it gurgles less. And here's the simple lesson. I'm going to continue this. I'm going to just stop there for fear of running out of time. It's worthy of 2 videos, so I'm going to continue with part 2. That's part 1 of Wet Smokes. Part 2 is coming up.